Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. If you are listening to this, you are in for a treat. So this summer, I worked at Cummins for 2.5 months, and we had to do final internship presentations to kind of present what we've been working on and let the world know what exactly is it that we did this summer. And I thought I'd take the liberty, instead of putting a job description of what I did, I'm going to talk to you about what exactly I did this summer. So my name is Dominic Vargas, and you can call me Dom the Bomb. That way you'll never forget me. Well, let's get started, shall we? So today we're going to discuss a little bit about me. I'm going to share with you 3 interesting facts about me. Then I'm going to talk about my internship overview. I'll share with you a main project as well as a side project that I worked on. And then I'll share with you some of the lessons that I learned in the 2 months that I worked for Cummins. So I'm headed into my 4th year at Indiana University. And my background is in human resource management. That's what I'm studying. Got my associate's degree in business administration and decided I want to go a more people-focused route. So when I got to Indiana University, I locked myself into studying HR. If I could go back, would I have chosen a different degree? We can talk about that later. So first interesting fact I'd like to share with you is that I had the great pleasure and blessing to be able to move around all over the U.S. for 15 years before finally settling down. And I also lived in Japan for 3 of those years. This was a result of both parents being in the military. They're both retired Air Force. My dad did 22 years and my mom did 20 years. I played jazz trombone for 6 years. Music for me was the first time I was ever really good at anything, and I credit my first taste of leadership to being in the realm of band as well. And lastly, I'd like to share with you that I am a twin. I like to think that I'm the good twin and my sister is the mean twin. She's 3 minutes older than me, and I think with that older sister complex came the mean streak in her, but she always made sure there was food on the table. She always made sure we were doing what we were supposed to do. And she always made sure to cover our butts when mom and dad came home and they weren't happy because we didn't have food out or we didn't clean. Next, we're going to talk about a little bit about my internship this summer. So my role with Cummins was a learning development intern, or more formally, as my global position profile stated, I was a technical training coordinator, and I worked in the Cummins Care organization this summer, based out of Nashville, Tennessee. My main projects that I worked on were developing training content, helping to revise and improve the current training request process for Cummins Care, and I also helped with mapping the core curriculum master sheet. Additionally, I worked on quality management as well. And some of my side missions, as I like to say, some of the things that I took on to help with my personal development this summer were to learn about automation research within learning management systems, which is very complex. I had a 75-person networking goal that I completely crushed this summer. And 15 of those specifically, I wanted to network with 15 Cummins leaders, which I probably networked with closer to 30. And then I also used the resources that were afforded to me because I was an intern this summer to work on content creation for LinkedIn. So if you see all the content that I put out on LinkedIn, you can thank Cummins for that. Well, at least I can anyhow. My main project this summer was the Cummins Core curriculum mapping project. And I want to ask if you've ever played 1 versus 100. The chances are that you haven't, and neither have I. Now my managers are essentially playing 2 versus 100 because they're directly supporting the needs of hundreds of agents across multiple levels of support and multiple teams. This project is part of phase 1 for the Cummins Care core curriculum, and completion allows us to move on to the next phase in rolling out the Cummins Care University. And the Cummins Care University is important because this will create a culture of continuous learning by preparing Cummins Care with the knowledge, the skills, and the capabilities so that they can provide superior support that is in alignment with our Cummins Care values, which is caring, accurate, responsive, and easy. This project also sets the tone for our global Cummins Care regional centers, as we're I like to say that we're leading the way in learning and development best practices, and the way I kind of remind myself about that is to say that monkey see, monkey do. So in doing this project, I'm helping Cummins Care with centralizing their training resources and making it easier to access those resources for agents by creating a clear training path for specific teams and specific levels. Next, I'd like to talk about the process that I used in doing this project. So one thing I did was a lot of self-research on the core competencies because I had to understand what those meant. I had to know how to interpret those And this is important because unlike most everybody else who's working on these projects, I'm an intern and I have no idea what any of this verbiage means at this company. So I guess from a communication standpoint, I had to be on the same page. Second, if possible, I would take courses that were listed to better understand. I would go into detail about those courses, but chances are, if you're listening to this, you probably don't work for Cummins and you probably won't care to know what those courses were, so I won't even tell you about those. But it essentially put me in the mind of an agent. And I asked myself, what would I be looking for if I was an agent who was looking for these specific trainings in the Cummins Care University? And I asked, what skill level would I need? And, what would I need to know if I was to be working with a customer? Because I wasn't working with customers, but I knew I had to put myself in the mind of an agent in order to do this project well. And lastly, I met with a lot of stakeholders, from the agents who were working on the ground level to the directors who were working above the supervisors and the managers as well. Meeting with the stakeholders after the project completion helped me to verify if the information was accurate, and then I was able to further edit any of the entries that I made. Some of the problems I ran into was that I messed up one entry, which means I probably messed up hundreds of entries because there were multiple entries that were identical. So it was very important to have a very detail-oriented approach towards this project. Next, I'd like to share with you a little bit about my secondary project. So my secondary project was to create e-learning trainings about applications within Cummins. Again, if you're listening to this, you probably you won't know about it, but I'll tell you anyhow. So I worked on creating e-learning trainings for PRS, which is the Policy Request System, WSPIS, which is our Worldwide Service Provider System, and Locator application as well. The Policy Request System is used for dealers to connect with their supporting distributors, and that helps them to better enable communication of the policy request, and it also helps them to get better responses from distributors and replies from requesting dealers. So if this sounds like alien language to all of you who don't work for Cummins, trust me, I understand, and I'd love to go more into detail. Reach out, contact me, and I can talk to more about what all this means. So WSPIS stands for the Worldwide Service Provider System, and that's used to view information such as engine certifications, shop data, and shop manager information as well. And then lastly, the Locator application. It provides location information and directions for distributors and dealers. This is all very surface level information that agents would use to better support our customers. And the trainings that I helped create will eventually be transferred into the Cummins Care University platform, which gives agents access to that content, and it'll eventually save managers and supervisors more time in their days, because no longer will they have to sit there and go through and set up times to train these employees on these applications and processes and procedures. So for those of you who are still confused, think of it like when you go to your job and you have a website where you can go to for training about very basic entry-level job aids. That's kind of what I helped to work on this summer. That's what the Cummins Care University will ultimately be. So what were some of my goals in working on developing this e-learning content? Well, first, I'd like to note that we've all been there during training where we almost fell asleep because the trainer had a very monotone voice and they talked like this the entire time, right? I almost put you to sleep there, I bet. So that was one of my goals, was to add some spice in life. Second, I wanted to create engaging content, because I know from experience, and if you've kept up with my content on LinkedIn, you know just as well as I do, that engaging content will be more memorable. And my entire goal was that agents will walk away from this training module that I created with more energy and all the information they need so that they can go and give that 5-star service that's in alignment with our care values. And then lastly, one of the challenges I faced in creating the content was adding my flair while still sticking to the script so that agents walk away with the right information. Because if you got too out of hand with it, what would happen is that agents listen to your training and they go, wow, that's a really fun guy, but I have absolutely no idea what he even talked about. So this summer at Cummins, I learned a lot, and these are just 3 of the things that I wanted to touch on for the sake of time. I learned about the benefits of working for a large organization like Cummins. I learned about the large role that a very small learning development team plays in overall organizational development, and I also learned that it's the little things that count. Working for Cummins taught me some of the benefits of working for a huge company. Cummins has 60,000 plus employees, and it's only growing from here. The access to training resources for me is virtually unlimited. I got to learn about project management. I I got to learn about Six Sigma and continuous improvement. I got to learn about leadership, even more about leadership, and coaching, and many more applications and processes and procedures that Cummins specifically uses within their organization. Networking in a large company is something that I found easy because of the fact that, one, this summer I could just whip out the intern card. That works beautifully. And two, working for Cummins is like walking around with the top of the line brand name. I noticed that even if people didn't know what Cummins did, they were still genuinely interested to learn about who Cummins was and why I was working for them. People know Cummins, and if they don't, like I said, they'll be sure to ask about the company and what you do. And lastly, the opportunities to grow personally and professionally seem to be much more feasible compared to if I were to work for a smaller startup. And I'm not saying startups are bad at all. I'm just saying that for the first time, I've been in a company where I felt I could grow just the way I wanted on both the personal and professional side of things without facing any limitations on either side. Almost every professional I connected with at Cummins, and remember I connect with a lot of people every day, almost all of them had a similar storyline of professional and personal growth while they have worked at Cummins. And to me, that's the mark of a company who's doing it right. So I learned that the learning development team here at Cummins, specifically within Cummins Care, supports hundreds of agents, and those agents go on to give 5-star service to our customers. That's really important because I think I forgot to mention this, but the team, the learning and development team for Cummins Care, guess how many people work on it? 2. Not including me. 2 people. I was a third person. So imagine 2 people directly supporting the needs of an entire organization who is supposed to go out there and give 5-star service. That's a lot of work and weight on their shoulders, which is why I put this Atlas picture here. I think it's a great representation of the team that I work with this summer. And lastly, it's the little things that count. It really is. From ensuring that our brand is being used appropriately and the impact that that has on our company image, to ensuring that I wasn't wasting other people's time because I sent them an email without the right information, to learning about system and applications that, if I'm being honest, I might not ever use again. It's the little things that go a long way, and those little things add up fast. Because of this experience here at Cummins, learning all these new things about engineering and engines and distribution and power products and all these things that are not HR related, I'm able to move further into my professional career with that mentality that it doesn't matter if it's not a product that you're passionate about, because it's much deeper than that. It's about the impact that you're able to make through the skills and knowledge and abilities that you have as a person and as a professional in your company. So I talked to you a little bit about Dom, shared some interesting facts about me. We talked about some of my projects with my internship, and then I shared with you 3 of the biggest lessons I learned at Cummins. And in fact, if you want to hear more, I've got an entire 4-page document written out with over 2,000 words of lessons learned while I was at Cummins. So every time I learned a lesson, I wrote it down. So I've got more to talk about. I just wanted to keep it down to these 3 overarching goals or lessons for the sake of time here. And if you enjoy this presentation, or if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer. You can reach me at dkv10mis@gmail.com, or you can message me directly here on LinkedIn. Hope to hear from you all soon, and I hope you enjoy learning about my Cummins experience this summer as an intern.